Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Dan Sissick, and we are still in the book, Whatever Rises, Love That. A Love Revolution That Begins With You by Matt Kahn. We're in chapter 12. Um, but first, sorry, we've not live streamed over the last like 2 or 3 weeks. We've had things going on, and that happens periodically with us. We'll just get busy and not be able to do the live stream. So we're back live this week. Glad you're here. Glad you can join us. Look forward to going through the beginning of chapter 12. But first, I'm going to let my friends Samantha, Catherine, and Angel introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
I'm Angel Studebaker down here in South Carolina.
Catherine Clement here.
Samantha over here in Indiana.
Okay, and with that, we're going to give Catherine a break today. She's just been really busy and a little tired, so we're giving her a break this week. She's had a lot of stuff going on, so we're going to have Samantha do our reading for us today, and we're in chapter 12, Awakening What to Expect.
Alrighty, thank you, Dan, for that introduction. I was trying to get the link posted in the group. Hopefully, there we go. Okay. All right, so chapter 12 of Whatever Arises, Love That. This is Awakening What to Expect. Take my glasses off so I can see. All right, during this pivotal time in history, more and more people are experiencing spontaneous awakening. Even if it appears that you live in a world in which so many characters are struggling to keep up with the perpetual demands of society or constantly looking for ways to speed themselves up, this is all an essential part of greater divine plan. An overstimulated nervous system is much like a car engine. The faster you try to make it go, the higher the RPMs will rev, which inevitably results in the combustion of the engine. While you could conceivably live your life at such a frenetic pace, waiting for your nervous system to crack in order for consciousness to expand, loving what arises offers a far gentler and more direct way to enter the doorway of eternal freedom. One way of understanding awakening is to examine the role of your nervous system. When put into overstimulation mode, at some point it may glitch and cause the whole process to momentarily come to a halt. As that sudden stop occurs, your consciousness expands to your natural state of being, revealing a perspective that is in contrast to the way you have been conditioned to view life up until that point. The shock between these two extremes can generate serenity, euphoria, a feeling of intimidation, an anticipation of death, or even a sense of fear as you are catapulted into a perception of reality you may have never noticed before. When awakening dawns and your mind is suddenly quiet, and you can feel everything in your body, which may include the ability to tune into the experience of others, there can be quite an adjustment process. Whether that creates excitement or fear in you, you may not be able to determine where you begin and others end. You may not know what to do with yourself, how to exist, or how to act without a character to portray. You may find yourself asking questions such as, how do I talk like this? How do I talk like this? How do I choose like this? How do I go about my day playing a role that no longer seems to be who I am? When a spiritual phenomenon of this depth and magnitude occurs, it is very important to befriend confusion and be honest about your pain so you don't misunderstand the opening of consciousness as something to resolve or turn away from. Befriending confusion will help you see these experiences as an invitation to explore a reality beyond understanding. No matter how clarifying or confusing it may be, you can remain open and attuned to an endless wellspring of joy, regardless of what is or isn't happening. Whether these words are a foreshadowing of what will soon happen along your path or help you come to terms with what's already unfolding, your willingness to love what arises is an essential companion when traversing each stage of realization. Even when all sense of who you thought you were dissolves and disappears, it is the perfection of love that propels you from one level to the next. With love as your guide, you are destined to be as integrated, compassionate, and wise as you are liberated, healed, reborn, and free. Even as awakening dawns and seems as if there's no one left to be, this doesn't mean there's no one left to love. When characters you've been playing suddenly disappear, love is always here to embrace itself as the one eternal heart masquerading throughout the bodies of all. Whether the door of awakening has already been opened and you wish to bring this journey full circle, or you're being prepared for the most miraculous adventure you may not understand, each fear, worry, and concern becomes your ongoing invitation to return to love. No matter your experience, perception, the beliefs you carry, or the identity that is no longer here, each auspicious moment of expansion allows life to be seen through the eyes of the universe to remember how equally everything matters. Did you guys catch all that? I feel like I was reading it and not completely understanding what it was talking about.
Maybe we can, talk about this, and maybe we can, because yeah, I'm kind of like you. I'm kind of like, okay, what are we just talking about here? Even though I was listening, and I'm like, what exactly is it trying to unfold? So maybe if we dive into it, maybe we'll get better rather than going on to the next part of it.
Right. I'm like rereading this first couple of bits.
I think one of the things that he points out is that awakening looks like many different, excuse the traffic, please. This may not be a good place. I don't know if you'll hear the traffic.
No, you sound fine. You sound fine.
Okay. Good. So I like that he points out that awakening can look like different things to different people because, oh, wow, I have a beautiful hawk sitting in a tree just above me, listening in. We have a hawk listening in on our Saturday morning mastermind. And because I think people get this this idea of what spiritual awakening looks like, and that it's just going to be all blissful, and it's not always. It's for some people it's very stressful. For some people, they wind up in a mental institution. Literally, I'm not exaggerating here, because some of the things that start happening to them seem so foreign to them that they seek out the wrong person on the wrong day, and that's where they wind up. And yeah, this hawk is still sitting here blessing us. And for some people it brings on a lot of fear because these are things that are scary to them, and to some people it is complete bliss. To other people, they don't really know what's happening because maybe they didn't even seek it out. It's just something that kind of evolves and happens without them seeking too much. But I like that he points that out.
I was going to say, I'm wondering if, and the reason why he does point this out is so if people come across this book and they read that, maybe it helps them to better understand what they're journeyed into or grown into. But I wonder if, a lot of people don't realize they're there and they still just keep kind of trying to stay within what they feel or they're what they think is comfortable, or what they are try to retain what they feel is normal, because they don't understand or they don't know, or and also like I said, maybe they don't want to appear to be any different than who they have been or portrayed or what other people see, and so therefore try to put back on a mask, so to speak. Because I don't know, maybe for me, I think when I'm not so comfortable or when I'm not sure, I try to get to a place where I do feel comfortable. And then when I'm in that comfortable space, then I want to explore and kind of look at that and kind of say, okay, what is this? What is this about? What can I learn about it, or what can I, you know, interpret or get my understanding of, so that way maybe I can move back into that space and be able to move forward more. I don't know. That's just some thoughts I'm having, because I I I think in some of my own a little bit of growth and journey, for me, that I think that's what I've tended to do.
I was kind of rereading this section, the second paragraph. It says one way of understanding an awakening is to examine the role of your nervous system. When put into overstimulation mode, at some point it may glitch and cause the whole process to momentarily come to a halt. As that sudden stop occurs, your consciousness expands to your natural state of being, revealing a perspective that is in contrast to the way you have been conditioned to view life up to that point. The shock between these two extremes can generate serenity, euphoria, a feeling of intimidation, the anticipation of death, or even a sense of fear, as you are catapulted into a perception of reality you may have never noticed before. That reminds me of kind of situations where people have like a near-death experience where, maybe they have they're running, their lives are crazy, and all of a sudden they have a heart attack. And that just instantly is that glitch, like what it's talking about. And then they're come face to face with death, and that like changes their perspective on things. And kind of, it makes it so you're seeing things from a different point of view, and reevaluating what is most important to you. And I feel like, in a lot of ways, I've had this happen a number of different times, not like near-death experiences, but where there is like so much stress and insanity, and you're trying to keep going and going and going, and then all of a sudden some major thing happens that puts a wrench in the situation, and you have to reevaluate everything. And I don't know. I woke up this morning with this kind of there's a lot of stuff going on in my life right now, and I think that we can all kind of concur with that, as to just having a bunch of insaneness happening. But I woke up with this just polar opposite feeling of, on one hand, I'm sitting here going, there is just not enough time in the day to accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished. And then there's this polar opposite thing going, that is, there's infinite time, like there's this infinity amount of time that there's no such thing as time. I have this like one side looking at it this way and the other side going, but I have to get all these things done. And so we're in I'm in this human experience of a person that has this limited time in our existence, and we have all these things that have to be accomplished in order for the bills to get paid, the things to get done, and da 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 da. And then I have this polar opposite idea of, you know, we're in this infinite universe where there is really no such thing as time. Time's an illusion. And why are you so stressed out? Why do you feel like you have to do so much? You know, and it's such a weird kind of thing. I guess that's kind of what it's talking about. It's like, how do you look at your life? How do you experience life? How do you go through the insanity that is life right now and come at it with a loving whatever is happening? Because as our spiritual self, time is infinite. There is no deadline. There is no, it's just there's no, I don't know, it's a weird thing. And exactly, I guess you start asking yourself these questions. How can I be in this universe and in this experience and bring some of this piece of the never ending spiritual aspect side, or the, you know, the whole of the universe perspective into this human experience that is this tiny little blip in the existence of everything. And I don't know if I'm making any sense. Like, just kind of like, how do you bring that aspect into this when it feels like it's just so urgent and so, you know, important and so everything, and yet it's only this tiny little speck of all that is all of everything. It's very conflicting.
No, I think I get what you're getting at. And two, while you were talking, it made me think of a couple of the other books that we've done just kind of previously, talking about where, you know, we planned a lot of this out and stuff. And so maybe in before being a part of God, infinite intelligence, the universe, or whatever, when we were in that realm, like you said, this would really, in that sense, we have forever and eternity to sort this out. But when we came here, whether we think we came here with, you know, a certain game plan, or whether we just are here, but you're right, this is, you know, that much of everything that's out there. And so therefore, you know, and when you look at it that way, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Yes, we have all this time. We won't be in this probably same physical form. And I believe our soul will go on and exist and transcend, and hopefully take what we've learned in this experience and carry it on. But yet here, the conditioning is, and everything about this is, hurry up and get this, or get here, or get to this levels, for lack of a better way. And sometimes we forget about that. It's not getting to that level, it's experiencing and learning and growing and taking in everything along the way, all the changes, all the growth, all the, you know, awakenings, or the things that we learn, and using that to, I guess the better way of saying it, to get to our best version of ourselves. I think meaning what I would like to believe that my soul, or the soul part of me that encompasses here, carries on, and that best part, not all the everything in the minutia and you know, things I get caught up in here. So that's kind of, like I said, I was starting to get that as I was listening to you go back over that and what you were saying. So to me, I think that makes another little part of it also.
just had this, I don't know what you would call it, just this thought, I guess, this comparison. Like, I don't know what the right word is. There's a literary term for it when you compare one thing to another. And I kind of was like, okay, when we're at this peace and serenity, it's like we're standing on the edge of a raging river, and we're on the edge, and the trees are glittering, the birds are flying, and there's all this beautiful landscape. We're standing around, we're at peace, and there's a boat sitting out there that we could get on at any point and just jump into this raging river of, it's like stirring, and it's going, and it's like going really fast, and so we kind of jump in, we jump into this boat, flowing down this raging river, and all these things are happening, and this is what's going on in our life, and at any point we could pull the boat over to the side and get back to peace if we wanted to. And yet so much of the time we stay in the boat, we stay on that raging river, thinking we can't get out of it, or thinking that there is no option for us to step out and see things from a different perspective, but at any point we can. And we lose Catherine. I guess she fell off. But anyway, that was just kind of a thought I had with this kind of aspect of being able to just kind of see things from a different perspective. And I suppose that even with all of this craziness that is happening in my life right now, I mean, at any moment I can just stop what I'm doing and take a moment and, just go walk outside, stand under the trees, or, watch the birds, or take a break or whatever. But I feel like I can't do it. Like I don't have time for that, and that is it's a weird illusion, I guess. It's this idea that we have to stay in the insane craziness that's happening in our lives, and yet at any moment we could take a break from it if we wanted to. And I guess that's just a good reminder. I'm gonna remember that I can take a break, and I do have infinite time, even though I think I don't. That because I feel like I struggle with that a lot, of knowing, okay, I need to, take a break for myself. I need to take 30 minutes and focus on just, my breathing, or even 5 minutes, I guess, and just, have a meditative moment, versus staying in the chaos and the chaotic thoughts and the continual craziness and whatnot. So,
I'm going to jump out again because now you made me think of something along that same line. And I think I may have said this maybe before and a couple other times, something to the effect that, and I find myself finding that my me time, so to speak, my evening times when I come home and I kind of chill and relax and want to just kind of push the world out, even though I may have the TV on and sitting in front, but I'm playing solitaire on my phone, and I'm kind of doing those things kind of with that kind of abandon. I'll pay attention to what's going on and follow along on the TV, but I'm playing and just kind of being in my own time space, not super focused on anything, but just let myself relax. And if I tend to think a little bit about what happened to the day or what went on, or or I find I like and I want and I need that time, because it kind of gives me that time back to recalibrate and maybe balance myself, I guess, in a way. And I think it's also my way, because then a lot of times that's when I sit and I'll talk with God, just kind of have as thoughts come on, like, oh God, this is going on, or oh God, with my car, or this, or some of the stresses with my friend Alan before, what he has to deal with in a couple weeks, or less than a couple weeks now. So in that, and I really like it. I really, find myself really wanting and needing that time because it kind of refreshes me and kind of re-energizes me and allows me to be able to get up and go and do, the next day in the hustle and bustle and getting caught up in everything. And then on some of those days, next thing I know, it'll be like 9 o'clock at night, and it's like I haven't really been able to, wind down. Because I normally go to bed about the same time. I do follow. I have taken that like um, guidance or what a lot of doctors say. Set a regular sleep schedule so your body learns and gets into that circadian rhythm, so that way, hopefully, you get plenty of rest. So I normally go to bed about 10 and fall asleep anywhere between 10:30 and 11, and set my alarm to get up at about 5:45, 6 in the morning. But when I only get a little bit of even like an hour of that downtime, it's not enough. And so then the next day, I don't feel quite back. And then whatever goes on that next day, it just seems like it just piles back on. And it's weird because then it seems like it goes for a few days and all of a sudden I can get that day back. It's like, oh yes, now I can get that, and I think in that, and maybe that's part of as I'm growing more and gaining more connectivity, I call it my connectivity with God, and in that, I find I like that time and I really want to be in that time. And I don't really want to leave it, so to speak. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Like the weekend, we get a break on the weekend and we don't want to leave the weekend. You don't want to jump back into the weekly stuff. Or when you go on vacation, you don't want to return from vacation because you're just like, I'm so peaceful. And I think it's the same way whenever we take a break from whatever craziness is happening in our lives, we don't want to come back to it. But we feel like we have to. And I don't know. I kind of want to be like, do we? Do we have to? I guess it boils down to, what do we want to have happen next? We make a choice. Every day we make choices of, we could just sit here in our stoic or not stoic, but just our calmness, peacefulness, sit and watch the birds or whatever. I could sit there and do that all day, but if I choose to do that all day, then these other things won't get done, and then that is going to result in the bills not getting paid, and so we make these choices that we could just get off the crazy raging river of insanity that is our lives at any moment and just sit and do nothing, but then we would end up being a homeless person sitting and doing But I wonder sometimes, you see people that are homeless and you're like, I wonder if they chose that because they're just over it, they're just over all this craziness that we, to have to do to survive. And they're just like, okay, well, all I got to do is just find food and find a place to get out of the rain. And that's the only thing I got to focus on. I don't know.
I feel like that's the van people perspective. Like I've seen a lot of people on TikTok like moving into vans and just traveling across the country, living out of their vans or like this makeshift, home on wheels. And it's just like they seem so happy, but I mean, I know there's still a lot of other stuff that goes into living in a movable home, but still it's just like I wonder if they were just done with the bullshit. I mean, it seems like it would be kind of cheaper, right? Maybe. I don't know, but I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
Well, and if there's like you said, TikTokers who don't, maybe they're TikTok influencers where they're making a living off of TikTok. So in that sense, they have that freedom in a way to, but look at how more and more people are kind of wanting to disengage with what's been considered normal, the working 8 to 5, and they're trying to, and I know me, I don't want to be out and under the thumb or and that's why I kind of like the Ubering, because I'm more in control, except right now that I'm waiting for my car to get fixed and needing the money to, so in that sense, I have that urgency and that desire. Okay, I need to make as much money as I can because I got to cover this and pay my bill. But when before that happened, basically, I was surviving and comfortable, and I didn't have as much stress as I felt in past, because I was basically working because I was living, but I wasn't really comfortable, or because I needed to make sure I worked to make enough to cover my basic bills. But where I'm at with the Ubering, for the most part, it's going to take me a little while to get back to where it was. And I'm going to be stressed and frantic until that point comes. But I know what that point feels like, and I've had that taste of it. And it's like, I like that. I want to get back to that. And maybe in that sense, like you were saying, and more, like people moving out of the big houses into these tiny houses. And how they say in some ways it's simplified their life, because in a tiny space, you can't really let things clutter up, or you can't really take on, or you have to really be mindful of, and maybe that's part of what this journey is helping us to get to that awakening point where we say, okay, now, and we are able to, I'd like to think we're able to kind of move in and out of that, so that way when we need those times, or as we are able to connect with that more and take that stock of where we're at and what's going on, and say, okay, what is really important? Is it really money, this, that, the other thing, or is it some of these other attributes of life that bring so much more, and we get so much joy and peace out of that? Is that where we want to go? Because there are some people that thrive on that craziness, that pressure, that, and all that. Others, but others don't, and some of us, I think we're kind of in that middle, and so with that, I'm wondering if in that awakening, kind of like he's saying, that's where we can kind of, like, because like he said there in the beginning, in that, first little paragraph where it says, where was it? Where, I know he explained it, the different aspects of whether it's peace, spontaneity. Oh, here it is. The shock between the, the two extremes of, like, well, I'll go to that. As that sudden stop occurs, your consciousness expands to your natural state of being, revealing a perspective that is in contrast to the way you have been conditioned to view life up to that point. The shock between these two extremes can generate serenity, euphoria, a feeling of intimidation, the anticipation of death, or even a sense of fear. As you are catapulted into a perception of reality you may have never noticed before. Maybe that's just it. Maybe we're becoming more aware of how conditioned we were once before, and how, oh, I'm here. Oh, I have a little control over this. And now I can maybe control more of how I want to respond and move and interact and carry forward. And I think as we go through that more, maybe we're able to jump in and out of it a little bit more, or grow, or get to different levels. Because I'm going to assume there's probably even different aspects and different levels even within that. And we have the awkward silence part now.
We could read the next section.
Never awkward.
Yeah, never awkward, exactly.
I'm trying to get a dog out a door onto a leash, so I can't really like talk at this moment, but I'll try to pipe in here in a little bit.
I know. I was reminded when we were discussing this whole aspect of, I mean, we did move into a camper for 3 years, and part of that was because I was just over it, tired of being on the raging river, if you will, and we moved into a camper, and that's not too much different, Angel, than like doing the van thing. Although I did see a lady, she was like a single lady, I think. And I would see her come to the campground. She'd be there for a few weeks, and she lived in a van. And then she would go someplace else for a while, and then you'd see her come back, a couple months later. And I was like, if I was just a single person, and it was just me, the only person to take care of or worry about or whatever, I would totally do that. I would travel around the country and work in a place for a few months, and then move to another place, work there for a while, and I could see doing that. But when you have a husband or a family, or all these people that everybody wants some different thing out of life, and when you're permanently, or some, I don't know how you could say it's permanently connected to another person, but you choose to be with another person, and so you have to, you make compromises based on trying to figure out, what you both can be happy with, right? And and so I suppose we took a break from the raging river for a while, and that was Chris's way of compromising with me. And then he's like, nope, I'm ready to get back in the raging river. Let's go. I'm over this sitting here being bored, And I was fighting, kicking and screaming, coming back into the river, but here we are, And
well, Dad seems to thrive more in the river anyway.
He
Just
thrives.
like people thrive in the river. Ty seems to thrive in the river too. And I'm like, stop it, just stop. Like, I see you over there. Like, I'm on the shore waving you down, man. We're over here. And you're just like, come help me. I'm like, you gotta come this way. Like, you gotta meet me over here. Like, I get you like it. It's fun, but come on. You gotta take a break. You're gonna weigh yourself out. You got to take a break from the river, but he thrives in it just like Dad does. So yeah, I get it. Dad was pretty antsy.
Yeah, he was pretty bored when we were living in the camper, and I get it, I get it. And but we make these choices. I could have chosen to stay there and just said go, go do your own thing, live your own life, and I'm going to stay here and live my life. But that wasn't the decision I wanted to make, and because when you're with somebody, you have these compromises. I mean, that's what being in a relationship is. It's compromising with each other and or collaborating, or however you want to look at it, because you want to be together, and yet you have different ideas of what you want out of life, and so you have to find these compromises where you both at least get something that you're happy about. Otherwise the other one person is always miserable and the other person is always happy, or if you will, or you're making each other miserable because you can't find common ground. And sometimes it just has to be like you just are on this life roller coaster with each other, and at some points you're up here and you're doing the thing you want, and at other points you're down here and you're doing the thing they want. And I guess I'm just really thankful, that with Chris and I, we have gone on the roller coaster together, and it's been different things over time, and we're willing to do those things in different ways with one another. Because I know some people get into a relationship and they are only doing what one of the people want to do, and they aren't ever taking an option and being like, okay, let's do what I want to do for a while. And even if it's okay, 10 years we do this and then 10 years we do, or whatever, I mean, at least you have that, you can make the changes. And sometimes it takes a long time before the other person is open to doing something different. That's okay too. It just is the way it is. Because I mean, with Chris and I, it's been back and forth, over the years. We've moved a lot. We've been in a lot of different places, done a lot of different things, but yet some people are perfectly happy to stand in one place forever, and that's great too. So I don't know what I was getting at with that.
No, I think what you're getting at is in that aspect of life when you are involved in a relationship, however that relationship is, however what you consider, there are times when you have to, I think both sides have to be willing to make those adjustments and understand that you can do these things together in tandem through, but you have to, like you said, it took a lot of years for you guys to get to that point where you could sit down and talk and kind of be open with each other and not, and listen. I think that's the other part. So you can be able to say those things and make those decisions together to move forward together. A lot of couples can't, or, that's where, and then a lot of times, I like me, it's like when I bought my townhouse, I bought it with the intention that I want to be here for, I'm going to live here. And with most intent, I do, but it's been weird as I've been able to get out of town over the last couple years for just a few days. And the driving, even when I've been a pastor, but lately when I took my friend Alan down to California, I was driving to California, that driving, even though it was 6 hours and I complained about how long that drive was, but as I look back, I really enjoyed that drive and the anticipation of that journey, so to speak, of going and getting there and and I think sometimes if we can go back and look like the analogy you used of, yes, we can stop and rest on the side of the raging river and kind of recoup or or like you did, you guys lived in that camper for 3 years. That was your way of being able to recoup, to be able to, then when he was finally ready and saying, nope, I can't take this anymore. You could say, okay, yes, I can move forward with this because now I'm recouped and I got the energy. But you also had that self-awareness even back then. And I think you learned and you had through your journey and awakenings and what you've gone through, you're like, okay, I've learned this about myself. Now I can maybe be able to focus more on us now, understanding that and helping him understand that there are times when I need this kind of, retreat, so to speak, from all the craziness, so then I can better go and move on with us going on, and sometimes if, couples or relationships, partners, however it works out, if you can get to that point, it also helps make that journey together better too, in that sense. For people like me so I think for me, some of what I've lived through has made it harder for me to connect with people. And like I said, I do have a wall that until you kind of prove to me that, okay, you're worth allowing in that wall, I don't let people in that wall. some people I'm realizing that probably I need to push them back outside to a certain degree, outside that wall, and keep them at that arm's distance now, because I've learned and realized, and I've changed, because I think we all do change over time too. Going through these awakenings or growths or better understandings, and life lessons, to get to that point where, okay, maybe it's not best that I have somebody there all the time, because I'll drive them totally nuts and they'll drive me totally nuts, that type of idea. But I think in these awakenings, or in these epiphanies, or however the way he says it, I think that also too is a part of this overall lifelong journey, even though it's really in reality is that speck. But as we see it on this earth, we think of it as this big, long, lifelong journey. Um, there is still lots to learn, lots to grow, lots to gain, and help us, to get to, for lack of a better way, that best version of who we are and who we are, in a sense of that connection with God, the universe, infinite intelligence, back to that, I think.
I just had another thought when you were talking about relationships and like a wall. You put up this wall, and I totally recognize that. I was having a conversation with somebody just recently, and we were discussing this concept of relationships, in that if you want to be in a relationship with somebody, and on this aspect, I'm not talking about intimate relationships. I'm talking about relationships in general, like friendships, family members, that sort of thing. And if you want to have a relationship with that other person on an ongoing basis, you have to be willing to work on yourself. And because when you're in a relationship with somebody, you are constantly faced with things that aggravate you, that irritate you, that cause you to have feelings of guilt within yourself come up, pain, fears, all of these things come up, because that's what relationships, I feel like that is the purpose of relationships in our human experience, is to bring up the things that we need to work on within ourselves. And that is a tough thing to swallow. And because this person I was talking to has been away from her family for quite a while, because of just things that happened earlier in their lives. But now she's talking about wanting to be close to her family again, and that when the family gets together, there's all these feelings and all this emotions that come up. And I'm like, if you want to be close to your family again, you're going to have to work through these things. Every time you get together, it's going to be something that comes up. And as long as you recognize that, if you can recognize the fact that when you get together with family, feelings are going to come up and you're going to have to face them, then you have a place you can work from. If instead you just get together with family and then everybody's angry at each other and you're not working on, you're not recognizing that this is something that you need to work on, then you're just going to be miserable every time that you get together with them. And I feel like the great thing is we have a choice. We can choose to, stay off in our little peaceful area where we feel like, it's not hard, it's not difficult. Because, like when I was at the camper, it was all peace all the time. I wasn't faced with any kind of stress or upsetness or whatever, but I knew we jumped back in this river of insanity. I was going to be constantly bombarded with this and that and the other. But it's the same thing when we get into relationships, or when we try and be close with another person, is we're faced with these stressful things that we have to work on. And I think that when we recognize that it's easier a little bit, maybe not totally easier, but it makes the journey through that interaction and relationship easier, knowing that, okay, I recognize that when I am going to be with this person, I'm going to have to face some shit, whatever it is. And I can do it. I'm strong enough to do it. I can work on it. I'm capable of it. And because I want that connection with that person or that other the people in my life, you know. And because when we withdraw and we're just by ourselves, we don't have as much to work on, and so it's peaceful, right? But when we're with other people, we have a whole lot of stuff that comes up, and I feel like that's been my journey. And if we talk about, you know, we come here spiritually with a purpose, I feel like one of my biggest purposes is to work on stuff with other people, you know, face these things within myself, because I am freaking literally compelled, even though I know I don't have to do these things, I am compelled to be in these relationships, and I'm compelled to go through shit, you know. I guess it is. So I'm like, it's interesting, because I don't want to most of the time. I just want to retreat and be like in my own space. But yet here I am in this raging river of constant this and that and the other. And I knew, you know, even with us moving in together with the kids and their kids and all of that, you know, I mean, we've been having this peaceful time, just Chris and I in our own space, doing our own thing. And I knew coming into this, moving in a big family situation, I knew we were going to be faced with stuff that was difficult. And I think just knowing it ahead of time that I was going to have stuff to work on, and going into it with that mindset of, okay, when things come up, I'm going to be working on them, and whatever it is obviously something that I've chosen to be involved in this situation. I still have stress about it. I still have worries about it. I still have all of the fears and this and that and the other, that some kind of shit is going to happen and it's all going to go to crap, you know. But I know that I'm working on it every moment through it. So my thought on relationships.
No, but it's, I think you kind of in a roundabout way hit that nail on the head, where, you know, based on what we've been reading, and as we grow and grow ourselves, and as we kind of come to that more enlightened part of ourselves, we realize that yes, we are making the decisions to go back in and interact and do those things. But I think we go in now, like I said, I think with a better understanding of, I am consciously making that, and know I'm going to have to work at that in order to make this feasible, hopefully on both sides, but being feasible for me, because all you can do is react and do the best you can on your side, because you can't necessarily react or make them react the way you want them to react. They're going to react the way, hopefully, you know, those people well enough, and you can anticipate, but you never are going to know exactly how they're going to react. So in that sense, you have to, I think you have to be able to go back and then say, okay, you know, and sometimes we just react because we're being that knee-jerk reaction. And in some ways, going back to old habits or how we used to, forgetting that, oh, you know, I do have a little more control. I do have more say in how I respond. And if I take that extra moment or that extra second to actively think of a better way to respond, to move the situation forward rather than escalating it, I think that's something that, you know, we can learn and grow and gain. Sometimes we miss the mark, sometimes we don't do it right, and whole bloody hell breaks loose in front of us, and door slamming that direction, door slamming that direction, words are said. But, I learned, for me, I grew up from the time from 12 until I was like 23, grew up in my mom's house, you know, um, and I lived with my mom and dealt with her, no major things except for the normal teenage and young adult stuff until I moved out on my own. But there was a time period after having been out on my own for a few years, I moved back in with my mom for like 3 months in it during a transition period. And during that 3 months, when I left, I said, "Oh, I know I can never live with my mom again because she will just drive me nuts and we will both just, and it's like, I realized that. And it's like, I love her dearly. Will protect her with my life. Will be there, no matter what. I just can't live with her." Just, and you realize those things of where you can maybe finally draw that line of, yes, I can do all these things, but here I'm not willing to go back to that. And, or what am I willing to go back to, but still willing to finagle around in order to move on. And I think that's, I think some of what we've read kind of helps in that understanding of ourselves better to be able to then move on and interact and grow and become more of who we're supposed to be. And we're a little after 8, so I don't know if we want to continue or if we want to kind of give last thoughts or whatever. So I'll throw that out.
Yeah, this is, oh, go ahead, Catherine.
I think last thoughts are probably in order. This evolution, like you said, Samantha, it's never ending. It's timeless. And although we may or may not come back to this plane of existence, there will always be another one. So we might as well relax and enjoy the ride. I hope you guys have a great week. I love you.
Yeah, I feel like, one of the, I don't know if this is the point of the section or not, but I feel like what we ended up landing on was this idea that, we can jump in and out of the chaos as much as we want to. And the chaos could be anything, it could be, the stressful job, it could be stressful relationships, it could be anything. And we can take a break from it. It's like when I went down, my mom had shoulder surgery and I went and stayed with her. I think the plan had been three months, and I think I only ended up staying there for like 6 weeks because that's all I could just handle. And but I recognize now, looking back on that the reason that at 6 weeks I was like reached my limit was because I didn't recognize that the things that were coming up for me was stuff I needed to work on within myself rather than her, like she was the problem. She's not the problem. The other person is never the problem. It's always the stuff within ourselves that comes up, that if we recognize that we can work on those things, we may still reach our limit of, okay, I've worked on it enough, I need to go, but if we recognize that it is stuff that we need to work on, then we can let go of this idea that it's the other person that's causing the problem, and that is a huge thing. And because then just that interaction between you and that other person becomes less tension and less upsetness, because then you're not pushing this upsetness on that other person like it's their fault, because you can't make another person fix themselves. It's impossible. The only person you can work on is yourself, and you can take that on and recognize that, then that relationship, no matter what's going on between you, becomes one little bit easier. And, that was kind of another thing I told this person is I'm like, I recognize that for you, this interaction with this other person is really, really, really difficult. But as long as you keep blaming the other person for the feelings that you're having, it will never get easier. But if you can recognize the feelings you're having are because of your reaction to what they're doing and because of your own things that are coming up inside of yourself, is that when you can work on those things, then it becomes easier. And every little step that you make within yourself makes that relationship one little tick easier. And that is a beautiful thing when you can do that. It's just a beautiful thing because then you can have a relationship with that other person that can be amazing. And I'll tell you from my own experience with my husband is that when I was able to do that with him, our relationship dynamic changed like magic. I mean, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy because for so long I was stuck on this idea that he's the one that had the problem. He's the one that wasn't doing what I wanted. He was this, he was that, he was doing these things to me. And when I let go of that and realized it was things within myself that I needed to work on, everything changed. I'm not saying it's been sunshine and rainbows the whole time since then, but it's definitely changed our relationship for the better and made it better, and every aspect of it is better. And so that's my final thoughts for today on relationships, in and out of the raging river, if you will.
Angela, anything from you? Okay. Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty good. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out. So we are in the book, Whatever Arises, Love That, A Love Revolution That Begins With You by Matt Kahn. This has been the Saturday Morning Mastermind. We're here most of the time on live streams and live and everything, but as anything in life, we go through the little ups and downs, and we do try to meet every week, but sometimes it just is a recording that comes out of that. But you can find us on Facebook at Mindset Mastery Collective. You can join the group there pretty easy. You can jump in, add your thoughts on the post or whatever, add your thoughts. If you want to join us on the live stream and on this, you can always click on the link and join and watch, or you can join us. And if you want to be on the panel, you can always join and ask to be on the panel, get a hold of any of us, and you can find out and we can help you. You can also find us at YouTube at Mindset Mastery Collective there. Again, we have a list of all the videos that we've done over the numerous years we've been doing this. And go back and see all that and see past things and make comments. And please like, subscribe. Same thing with Facebook, like and subscribe. And also you can find us on our website, mindsetmasterycollective.com. We have all sorts of information there, how to join, get on the live stream and everything. So with that, that's it for the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Love you guys and look forward